Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and this is sort of an unscheduled, unscripted live video. I meant to get something done to post today, and I just didn't have time. So when I went to record it, I thought, why spend all that time editing stuff when I can just do it live and make it up as we go? So everyone, if anyone happens to see this, of course, everyone's welcome to join me and ask questions, but I'm going to just proceed assuming that no one's going to notice this is happening and just going to proceed at pace. So what I'm doing here today, it's going to be another Longbox Archaeology. And what I do in those is find boxes of comics in my collection where I don't quite remember what's in them, and then we go diving for buried treasure. And previously, one of the ones I did was my miscellaneous box, which is a box of random stuff that I have not yet read. But that's not my only miscellaneous box. I've got two other full boxes of miscellaneous stuff that I have read. They're not completely miscellaneous. Hello there. Thanks for joining me. The miscellaneous box I'm going to be going through today, it's not entirely miscellaneous because I have read them before, and so I organized them. This is box A through the beginning of M, so it gets up into the books with the title Marvel. But other than that, I'm not quite sure what's in this box. It's random things that either didn't fit into my regular collection, so I threw them in this box, or it's things that do fit in my collection, but since I only have 2 or 3 issues, like their miniseries or something, I didn't have anywhere else to file them, so I just threw them all in this miscellaneous box. And honestly, I don't really remember what's in here. I know it's a bunch of random stuff, and there's a couple things that I know are in here, but other than that, I'm not really sure what I've got in this box. So again, thanks for joining me. If you have any questions for me about anything in this box or just anything in general, feel free to go ahead and ask. And we'll just get started. Here's the box, by the way. It says miscellaneous right there, and we'll just start. I'm going to show them to the camera, and that way I won't quite know what they are either. Okay, so first out of the box, I guess it makes sense I filed my numbers in front of the A's. It's Permission to Die, 007 James Bond by Mike Grell. I think there's a second issue of this. Here it is here. Ian Fleming's James Bond. They may give it a bigger logo here. Permission to Die. Hi, Charlie. Charlie, thanks for joining me. I'm just going through a box of miscellaneous comics. Speaking of which, I have here, I'm going to digress for a second. I've got right here the box of comics to send you. And the only reason I haven't sent it yet is that there's like 4 or 5 specific comics that I want to include in it, specifically for you guys. And I can't seem to find them because I had them filed in a specific place, and I took them out of that place for last time I appeared on your show. That's how disorganized I am. So the last time I appeared on your YouTube channel, I pulled out these comics, didn't end up showing them to you, and then I don't know where I put them. But as soon as I can find them, I'm going to put them in this box and I'll mail it to you. Hopefully that'll be sometime this weekend I'll find that. But right now I'm just going through the miscellaneous box. And the first thing out of the box was this 2-part 007 James Bond series by Mike Grell. And it's really cool. Grell does the writing and the artwork, and his version of Bond is really interesting. He has a very specific look to him that's sort of he's sort of like halfway between I just blanked on the guy's name, Timothy anyway, you know who I'm talking about, the 4th James Bond. It's sort of halfway between him and Roger Moore, and he's got like a scar. He definitely took elements from the books and brought them into the comics, so this is based more on the books than on the movies. So it's really cool, some really, really good, thank you. That's right, Timothy Dalton, who I think is underrated as a Bond guy. Oh, actually, there's a 3rd issue. I forgot this was 3 issues long. So here's the cover of issue 3. The back covers are all Grell art as well, and very James Bond. So anyone who's a fan of either Grell or Bond, pick them up. They're like they're these prestige format, like square bound. So Whoever had the James Bond license was clearly inspired by Longbow Hunters. Okay, so next out of the box, let's see what's next out of the box. It is DC's 5-star superhero spectacular. This has sort of a great cover by Neil Adams that's very well known, which is, I think, why I picked it up. I also love the dollar books, just as a general rule from this era. It's got 5 fabulous all-new epics. Now, this is filed in my box of things I've read, so apparently I must have read this, but I'll be honest, I have no memory of ever reading that. So I guess there's 80 all-new pages that I can rediscover at some point. Okay, so we got Adventure Comics. I talked about this run on a previous issue, video, but for 3 issues, Adventure Comics, 425, 426, 427, they went back to an adventure format. This is the first appearance of the Adventurers Club. I love this little brief mini run in Adventure Comics. Anything that has the giant old school Adventure Comics logo, I love. And this has the double bullet design up here. Just great. I'm not actually a big fan of Vigilante, who's the character on the motorcycle. But then we've got so at 428, this is the first appearance of Black Orchid. It's interesting. There's an issue missing here. I have all 3 issues of this run, so I'm not sure where the other 2 are right now, but I do have them. Black Orchid. Here's the next. This is 430, so I'm missing 429. Black Orchid only ran for 3 issues, and she's a bit of a cult character. What I really like about her is, in the stories, you have no idea who she is or why she's doing anything. She just sort of shows up and acts very weird and solves the crimes or whatever, and then disappears, and nobody has any idea where she came from or where she's gone off to. 431 is the first of the Spectre issues. Of course, this is a famous run. Jim Aparo art and Michael Fleischer on the writing, where they sort of went back to the grim and gritty, like super dark, ultra violent Spectre from his original appearances in the 40s. This run was supposedly inspired by an editor who got mugged in New York, and basically was like, what if we do sort of like a revenge fantasy sort of thing? And so Michael Fleischer did this run here. Great covers, great artwork, really violent, creepy stories. And this run is also famous because I have most of this run, actually, and I've got them all out of like 50-cent or dollar boxes. Because several years later, Harlan Ellison, in an interview with Gary Groth, went off about how Michael Fleischer was clearly deranged and that they had to cancel the series because it was so violent. It was clear that he was mentally unbalanced. And Michael Fleischer ended up suing both Gary Groth and hi, Gray Man. Thanks very much for joining. I really appreciate it. I know it's very late over where you are. Going through my miscellaneous box A through M, and I happen to have most of the run of the Spectre in Adventure Comics. And I was just telling the story of how Michael Fleischer ended up suing Harlan Ellison for $2 million for slander or defamation for his comments on that. He ended up losing that lawsuit, but okay. What's this? It's All-Star Comics 59. Now, my last haul video, I showed off that I just recently picked up an All-Star 58, which is the first issue of the revived All-Star and also the first appearance of Power Girl. So here's the second appearance of Power Girl, second issue of All-Star Comics with the Super Squad. And Super Squad, that title never really caught on as a moniker. Those are like the new members of the Justice Society with the Super Squad. Here's my All-Star Western #1 with Powwow Smith. I'm only a couple issues away from completing a run of All-Star Westerns, so I'm guessing the rest of them must be coming up right after this. Because I already have 10 and 11 for my Jonah Hex collection. So whenever I get these cheap, most of these are dollar bins. I think I paid $5 for issue 1. Some of these have reprints, but some of them have new material. Here is All-Star Western. This is issue 4 with Outlaw and El Diablo, and it's got a Neil Adams cover. I'm sorry for the glare. Apologize. But there's issue 4. Yeah, well, as I mentioned at the beginning, these are the ones that I have read, and a lot of these miscellaneous books I haven't read are in another box. So apparently I have not read any of the other All-Star Westerns because I do have most of the run. Here's Alpha Flight number 1. It's a really nice copy. I think I got it out of a $1 box. Not exactly the rarest comic, but Amazing Adventures number 16, featuring the Beast. Here he is fighting Juggernaut on the roof of a house. You'll notice down below in the background, see if I can get this up closer, appears to be the Avengers plus the Invisible Girl and Spider-Man. And you'll see the title, One Must Die in the Dark of Halloween. Those of you who have read this and know what I'm about to start talking about, but this is a famous issue because the writers of this and a couple other titles teamed up, including titles at DC Comics. It was a cross-company crossover where the writers went on a road trip to a Halloween party in Vermont where everyone's in costume. And so that allowed them to have Marvel characters show up in a DC book because they're just people in costumes, and DC characters show up in the Marvel book. And so the Marvel and the DC characters are both having adventures at the same time in the same place. And then the connecting thread is this road trip by the writers. I find it really insufferable, to be honest. I think it's just so self-indulgent that I really actually don't like it, but it is a very famous issue. Okay, what's this? Ooh, it's Amazing Adventures. This is it's some kind of Marvel graphic novel. Now, Marvel had done this series called Amazing Adventures, or Amazing Bizarre Adventures, or something like that. And it was basically an anthology of like adventure stories by all these different great creators. And that ran in the early 80s for several issues, very sporadically. This is from later. This looks like it's from the 90s, but it's the same idea. Again, I have this in my box of things I've read. I have no memory of ever having read this, but let me just pop it open here. So it's got stuff. The first one is Chris Claremont, Michael Golden, and Terry Austin, Bill Mantlo, Larry Stroman, J.M. DeMatteis, Val Merrick, Mike Barron, Rick Veitch. There's a lot of good creators in here. I don't remember anything about that. I cannot remember that I ever read that. Oh my gosh, it's Amazing Fantasy 15. I'm rich. Oh no, wait, it's a reprint. They actually got several of these out of a $1 bin a while ago, and I think they actually sell on eBay for like $15 each now. I just keep it around because it's like a full reproduction. I think it even has the ads, but it's also got the backup stories, the non-Spider-Man like science fiction stories. So that's cool to have. Oh, here's the one I was just talking about, Amazing High Adventure. So this one is basically a continuation of this series, the same basic concept where it's just like anthology stuff. And I do have this whole run. This has all sorts of great creators doing all sorts of cool work. Like here's issue 2. You can see the creative teams down there, like Alan Weiss, stuff like that. Those are the only 2 issues I've read, but I have the other 3 issues as well. Here is my Ambush Bug number 1, which someone actually mentioned in the video where I talked to Metarog about his history. We talk about Ambush Bug, and there's a section there where you see me frantically looking through this box for this comic, and I couldn't find it. But here it is, Ambush Bug number 1. This is one of the first comics I remember buying. And Mine actually has a date stamp on it. It's very rare for comics to have date stamps this late. It's March 25, 1985. Thanks for coming, Charlie. Good luck on your Disney show. And again, I'll try, as soon as I can find these comics, because I have these comics I really want you to get. And as soon as I find them, I'll mail this box of stuff. But thanks for coming. Have fun on your show. Anyone who likes Disney Nerd Herders is a channel you should check out. American Splendor. Here is a series. This was during a period when it was being published by Dark Horse. I really dig this series, and you can see it's got some really good artists. But these are the only American Splendor's issues I actually have, is this run here. Oh, this one, well, I say that, and now that I pull out something from Vertigo. But I do, I saw the movie before I actually read any of the comics, and if you haven't seen the American Splendor movie, it's really great. It's really cool. It's got Paul Giamatti is in it. He plays Harvey Picar. And Harvey Picar is in it as well. And there's sections that are where he's in them, where Paul Giamatti is playing Harvey Picar, the fictionalized version in the movie, and he'll wander out of the scene, like off the set, and then talk to the real Harvey Picar and discuss, like, so there's like almost like a documentary aspect to it. It's just really interesting. It's really cool. Here's another American Splendor, another Vertigo issue. Again, great artist. This one's got Gilbert Hernandez is one of the artists on this one. Okay, here's a 6-issue series from Kurt Busiek and Carlos Pacheco. Yes, great man. The movie is very odd, but it's really good, and they do a lot of stuff with comics in terms of the way the movie is filmed. There'll be like panels. They'll have it designed so it looks like you're reading a comic book panel, and he'll like walk off panel. Sometimes he'll talk to the camera. Sometimes like you'll see like the fictionalized version, and then the real Harvey Picar will talk about what actually happened. That's different from what we just saw. It's really, really weird, but it's really cool. Speaking of weird and cool, this series Aerosmith by Kurt Busiek and Carlos Pacheco has a very high concept, but it's really neat. It's a retelling. It's basically in an alternate universe where there's magic, and it's a story about World War I, except for the armies have stuff like little flying dragons, and there's like trolls and ogres in the trenches. So it's a fantasy reimagining of World War I trench warfare. The main character, the Aerosmith, he's part of the flying corps, but instead of airplanes, they have like, they're like witches and stuff, and they fly around. This was supposed to have, that's the main character there with his little dragon buddy. This is supposed to be have a follow-up. This is like 15 or 20 years ago now when this came out, maybe 20. Yeah, 2003. So it's almost 20 years ago. The follow-up was announced like 3 or 4 years ago, but I think Kurt Busiek is still having a lot of health issues, and they have never actually put it out. Which is too bad, because I really like this one a lot. That's issue 6. I think that's the last issue. There might have been like a one-shot special that went with it. I'm not sure. Oh, look at this. Astonishing Tales featuring Kazar and Dr. Doom. Some people say Kazar, but not me. I say Kazar. This is a weird concept for a comic. I appreciate it. I appreciate the split books. Both Kazar and Dr. Doom had some giant-sized tryout solo books before this. They must have sold well enough. So here's a comic that I didn't realize has become a bit of a minor key, because it's the first comic book appearance of Man-Thing. He had appeared in one of the sorry again for the glare. He had appeared in one of the black and white magazines, and then he was in this Astonishing Tales featuring Kazar number 12. So this is his first comic book appearance. This also has an appearance. I think it's got an appearance of Bobby Morse, an early Bobby Morse appearance before she becomes Mockingbird. Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time passing up the frame covers if I can get them cheap. So I know I didn't pay more than $1 for it. I'm not a fan of Kazar. Despite the fact that I have a few issues of this run. It's just these 20-cent issues. If I see them for 50 cents or something, I just have to buy them. This is a cool series. It's It the Living Colossus. It only lasted a couple issues. But the next issue, I hope I have it here. Yeah, here it is. Oh, is it this one? Gil Kane. You can see the Gil Kane cover. One of those, he fights Fin Fang Foom. So it's a whole story where there's a giant dragon fighting a giant statue. Here is my Batgirl Special #1. I have it signed down here by Barry Kitson, the artist. And I also have it signed up here by Mike Mignola, the cover artist. I do like Batgirl as a character. This is kind of a kick in the teeth. It came out in 1988. So they were like, yeah, let's put out this Batgirl Special right about the same time that they're just going to completely destroy the character in the worst possible way. I'm just blanking on the name of that horrible Alan Moore, The Killing Joke. I hate that. It's one of my least favorite comics of all time. It's just horrible. Oh, hey Kyle, thanks very much for joining me. We're up to Batgirl in my miscellaneous box. This is a box of miscellaneous comics that I've actually read, and most of them I don't remember. But this is from the Girl Frenzy line. I think I have a Lois Lane issue from Girl Frenzy as well. Frankly, don't remember what the conceit of this was. I don't remember what the high concept was. Batman and Robin 230. I just read this a little while ago because you can see he's dealing with a thinly veiled version of the Black Panthers on here. And I actually found this when I was doing my previous miscellaneous box of stuff I hadn't read. I found this in there and I was like, I should read that. Considering the events of this year, it seemed very timely here in the US. And it's just terrible. It's so bad. It's just like, not even sure I can describe it, but basically it makes everybody look like a bad guy. And Batman is a complete a-hole who basically is more than happy to just let all these people that are protesters, the protest turns violent and there's like, they're hold this building hostage because they want their demands met. And Batman is like, let them blow themselves up. And Commissioner Gordon keeps trying to get him to come help. And he's like, I don't care if they all die. Thanks, Batman. Thanks. I think I have a couple more Batmans in here somewhere. Oh, yeah, I do. Look at that. It's Batman 404. It's year 1, part 1. I think I have 3 of these. I got these. I have a collection where I actually have read these, but the individual issues I found at a yard sale for 25 cents each. I'm missing one of them, but I've got 3 of them. The art here by David Mazzucchelli is just some of the best comic book art of all time. And this is like, I'm not a big Frank Miller fan, but I really like the story here as well. It's really good. It's really good. I'm saying something new and controversial here, but Death in the Family, famous issue here. This is the issue where you call in at the end. Hey, Tartan Phantom, thanks for joining me. I haven't seen you in a little while. I'm actually going to send you a message on the forums because I've got a question for you, but I'll send you that. Thanks very much for joining. I actually had not been planning on doing a live video. This was a spur of the moment. I decided I was going to record me going through this box, and I thought, I'll just do it live. It just saves on the editing time. So I appreciate everyone joining me with no notice. I was just showing off this Batman 427. This is the one where at the end of the issue, you get to call in to decide whether Robin lives or dies. Got that for in a dollar box or something, or it might have been at a yard sale. I didn't pay more than $1 for it. Same here, Batman Family #5. And these are all in the box of miscellaneous things that I've read. Otherwise, they wouldn't be filed in this box. But I have no memory of reading that. None. No idea. I'm guessing it's because it's really crappy. This was a gift from someone a while ago. It's Billy the Kid number 128. And as you can see here, it's all Severin art. So these are reprints. These are Charlton reprints of earlier Charlton stories where John Severin did the artwork. And John Severin, to me, is one of the greats. He's just amazing. What's this? Oh, it's Black Goliath #1. I don't think anyone needs me to talk about, why didn't they just call it Goliath? Great question. But this is a series that theoretically had potential, but I don't think it's very good. And what's with the weird costume? It's like an ab window. It's kind of like Power Girl's boob window, but it's for abs. He probably gets really good ventilation, which, speaking of which, I'm actually really hot right now. So I'm going to take this fleece off. Let me just... all right. I've got my Full Metal Alchemist vintage tee on. Yeah, Black Goliath, it could have been good. Wasn't. Ooh, what's this? Blade Runner. Archie Goodwin, Al Williamson. Here you go. Hi, James. Thanks for joining. Thanks, everyone, for joining. If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to ask me any questions or anything. I'm happy to talk about anything. Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies, although there's 5 different versions of it, and so it's hard to tell which one you should watch, but I tend to go for the director's cut without the commentary. Yeah, I mean, I've cosplayed as Wonder Woman, but I don't think anyone wants to see me cosplay as Power Girl. You see my hairy man boobs. No, I don't think so. I don't think we want to go with that. Here's the Bone Holiday Special. I don't believe this is included in the 1-volume Bone collection that I have. So I saw this like I might have got that for 10 cents actually at a sale at my store. So here's my Bone number 49. I bought this randomly for like $1 because I was seeing Jeff Smith at a show. You can see that he did a little sketch and remarks for me. So that was really cool. It's the only actual issue I have because I got into it through the collection, and I just don't feel like getting into that for back issues. Raven the Bold, number 97 with Wildcat. I don't know. Am I the only person who's not a fan of Wildcat? It makes sense for him to team up with Batman because he also doesn't have any powers. But I don't know. I just don't care for Wildcat. Brave and the Bold, number 200. Oh yeah, special sneak preview. 10-page premiere story starring the sensational super team Batman and the Outsiders. I think this might be the first appearance of like Katana, so I think this is actually worth some money now. I have a nice copy. It's got a couple issues. It's probably an 8.0. I do pick up issues of Brave and the Bold when I can for cheap, and there's only a couple in this box, but that's because, I collect characters like Wonder Woman and Green Arrow and Black Canary and stuff. So I've got like 30-ish plus issues of Brave and the Bold. They're just spread around on my other collections filed away with those characters. Here's the Cat, first appearance of the Cat number 1. I have a complete run of the Cat. At some point, I want to do a podcast and maybe a video about this line of female comics that Marvel put out with all female creators. And oh, great, man! That's really cool. Like I like Bob Haney as long as you don't. He's great if you don't care too much about continuity. He's on Earth Haney. If you just tune that out, I really dig some of his like wackadoodle stories that make no sense in terms of what should be happening in DC continuity, but they're just so fun. This issue, Claws of the Cat, and the first issue, like if no one's read The Cat, this first issue is just excellent. There's like a plotting assist from Roy Thomas, and then the art is by I think it's by Maurice Severin with Wally Wood inks. So we got like an EC reunion. I don't feel like opening up to check. This was infamous because when Wally Wood inked it, he inked the cat completely naked, including nipples and stuff down below. And so Maurice Severin had to go back over it and correct all of that. But this is just a great, great issue. I mean, it's really good. And then the series goes downhill maybe faster than any other series I've ever read. Here's issue 2 where she fights the owl. That's right, Tartan Phantom. This is Greer Garson, who later became Tigra. And it's actually one of the things that I really dislike about a lot of Tigra stories is that having read these cat issues, personality is completely different. The only time I've ever seen anyone really get into that is in the early issues of West Coast Avenger, where Steve Englehart addressed it some. Yes, Greer Nelson. But yeah, the first issue of Cat's great. And then we have her here fighting Kraken. And then like these last couple issues, this one is fighting Man Bull. The last couple issues of this are pretty bad. Like it's pretty bad. One thing that's interesting though is that issue 5, they were trying to keep female creators on these female books. There were 3 books they launched. It was The Cat, Night Nurse, and Shauna the She-Devil are all launched at the same time, and they all had female creative teams, which was of course really unusual for 1972 or 73. There was a 5th issue of The Cat that was almost completely drawn. It may have been completely drawn. And it was Ramona Fradon, who had been out of comics for a little while she was raising her children. She was getting back into comics. And of course, she's known for working at DC, but she actually came to Marvel to work on issue 5 of The Cat, and it was never published. But if you Google around online, you can find the original pages and the original pencils by Ramona Fradon for The Cat number 5. So it's unfortunate we never got to see that. Catwoman, I'm missing issue 1. Darwin Cook for me is basically the perfect artist. He's probably my number 1 comic book artist, Darwin Cook. I found these in like a quarter box, so I had to pick them up. Tartan, yeah, the Shauna books are pretty decent for a Jungle Girl book. That's the issue I have with them. I don't like jungle books. Just like I don't like books that are stories that are set under the water. I don't like jungle stories as a general rule. But I do have most of the issues of Shauna. They are pretty good, and there's some really good covers. Jim Steranko does at least 1 cover for that. Here's Catwoman number 4. I have 2, 3, and 4, so I'm just missing number 1 to have the full first arc of that. What's this? Oh, it's Concrete, which it's a reprint of his first appearances, but with some additional material. Concrete's a story I remember thinking it was really good, and of course, it's well known for being good, but I don't really remember. I didn't quite get into it enough to track the rest of them down. Here's a random comic. It's Cops, The Job. Anytime I see a Marvel comic that I've never heard of before, I feel compelled to pick it up. And this actually, it's just this story about the police in New York City. This is the only issue of this I have. Chris Starr, terrible like toy line tie-in series, and what they basically started doing was just crossing over with every Marvel character they could think of towards the end. And this is issue 11. It's the last issue, and it's got Alpha Flight in it. But I have another issue of Chris Starr with Doctor Strange. What's this? Oh, it's a Golden Age comic. Golden Age alert. It's the little wise guys in Daredevil number 99. I've read this. I love Charles Barrow's work. I love this issue. The only reason that I haven't gotten more of these is that I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of getting the whole run because they're so expensive. But at some point, I might do that. They're really good. I have a couple more issues. I don't know where they are. I thought they'd be in here, but apparently not. But I have this. I've got Daredevil and Black Widow 103. I think I've got 104 as well. Yeah. Is this? Yeah, it's missing part of the back cover. Gil Kane on the cover. It says I paid $1.75 for this. I can't imagine that's true. I think I must have put it in a different bag. Although why I bothered, I don't know. I think these are written by Steve Gerber. And I remember not understanding, like, I don't get it. I'm not a big fan of Daredevil. I think everyone knows that. But I also, like, I just don't get the Steve Gerber thing. Steve Gerber, to me, and I know this is blasphemy, but to me, he reads like someone where you kind of had to be there in the 70s to get it. Because I've read a fair amount of his work, 10 or 15 years after the fact. And I don't know, I just don't get it. Speaking of Darwin Cook, New Frontier, I do have the complete run here. Big fan. Really fun story, just really good. Great overview of the Silver Age DC. Just like, for me, Darwin Cook's Wonder Woman is the best Wonder Woman of all time. The way he draws her specifically, I mean, the way he draws Wonder Woman, nobody has ever drawn Wonder Woman as well as Darwin Cook. I think everyone's probably familiar with this series, so I won't spend too much time on it, but this is one where I happened to get the run in the original issues. Turn Phantom says, you gotta unload those DD books, can't have those tainting your collection. I was thinking about it if Kyle's still here. I'm swamped with stuff, but at some point I'm talking to him about doing a trade, and he mentioned some old school Marvel superhero books, and my first thought was, I've got those 2 issues of Daredevil that I don't want. But yeah, we'll figure that out at some point. Let's see. It is DC Special number 5. This is an all Joe Kubert issue, and it's got a frame story where he's drawing at the table, and it's got Adam and Andy Kubert when they were like little children in the story, were helping him like draw this issue. So Joe Kubert is just one of the greats. It's like the greats. Defenders number 15. Wow, I don't remember owning this. Magneto, I know it's supposed to be Magneto, but whatever. Magneto and his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. No memory of reading these. I kind of remember that I own them. Look at this. It's Gil Kane again. And it's the Hulk versus Blob. This just goes to show you how much power creep has happened in comics. Because if anyone today seriously suggested that the Hulk versus the Blob was any kind of fair fight, they would just like laugh you right out of the universe. But at one point, oh, what's this? Detective Comics 367. So close. So close. I don't remember owning this. So weird. Detective Comics, it's $4.93. Someone on the Classic Comics forum that I'm part of just reviewed this a little while ago, and it sounded absolutely terrible. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is one of the great covers. I remember seeing this when I was a kid, and I owned it in the 80s. Norm Brayfogle one of my favorite covers. So I saw this in a dollar box and I had to buy it for my collection because it's just amazing. I absolutely love it. What's this? Doc Savage. Yeah, check it out. Jim Steranko cover. Black 20-cent frame from Marvel. There's a lot of Steranko covers from this period, from the early 70s, that were really underrated. Tarn Phantom says, love his Batman covers. Yeah, Norm Brayfogle is just tremendous. He was on the book when I was reading it as a kid, and just fantastic. Loved his work. I have, I don't know where it is. Towards the end of his career, Norm Brayfogle works at Archie. And one of the things he did was the first 6 issues of Life with Archie, The Married Life, which is the story about what happens 5 years later after they graduate high school and they're all adults. And I have a Norm Brayfogle page of original art. Hold on, let me find it. Let me find it. Here it is. So here's Norm Brayfogle. Yeah, it's Archie, but look at the moodiness in that top where Pop Tate has been walking around the neighborhood in a funk all night because he's going to lose his restaurant. And then he talks to Jughead. So, and it's signed down here by Norm Brayfogle. I paid $28 for this. So, I remember I clued in Shaxper at the Classic Comics Forum. I told him about this because he's a huge fan about Norm Brayfogle, but also this particular run on Life with Archie, and he ended up getting some of the original art from that as well, just so cheap. Doc Savage, we'll get back to the box here, I guess. Doc Savage, number 4. Tarn Phantom, didn't know that about Norm Brayfogle. He did the first 6 issues of Life with Archie, but previous to that, he did this really weird storyline. I'm trying to remember what it was called. In one of the Archie titles, I think it was Archie and Friends, they did this new look thing where it was Archie stories, but instead of being drawn the Dan DeCarlo style, they were being done in like a realistic, like comic book style, like it was a Marvel or DC. And Norm Brayfogle drew the realistic Archie issues, and they're so strange. It's not like this where he's doing an Archie style. He's doing his own style of those. It's so weird. I have a collection of it somewhere, but I don't have the original issues. Doc Savage, number 5, Gil Kane. You can tell it's Gil Kane because it's looking right up this guy's nose. In the new issue of my comic, The Crime Busters, when I was drawing it, there's a crowd, like a mob scene, and I just thinking of all these Gil Kane covers where it's like the students protesting on campus, and there's always the person in the foreground ranting and with a shot up the nose. So I specifically took a picture of myself from a low angle up the nose, and I drew a Gil Kane person in the foreground where you could see up their nose. Fantastic Four 61. This comic is one of the first back issues I ever bought. The first time I ever went to a comic book store in 1985, I bought 2 back issues. It was Avengers 36, and this copy of Fantastic Four 61. I later traded all my Fantastic Four back issues to my friend Jason because he was focusing on Fantastic Four a lot more than I was. And when he got out of comics, he gave it back to me. So that holds some sentimental value for me. Fantastic Four number 90, really trashed. Still Lee and Kirby, but this is when Kirby was saving his good stuff for himself. 92. This is like when he's in the arena. This basically, this storyline was the inspiration for the Planet Hulk storyline. Fantastic Four 132. 134. I don't know, they're just random issues. I think Jason gave these to me, so these are ones I'm holding on to because he might want them back eventually, but 139. I don't remember ever reading these, but they're in my box of things I've read. Feature Comics. Golden Age alert. It's Feature Comics 135. Dollman meets the Giant of Evil, Magog. I have read this. Yes, Tartan Phantom, Omega the Unknown. Yeah, this is a totally different Omega. Yeah, this is Omega, the guy from the Inhumans. I'm not a fan of the Inhumans, so. But anyway, yeah, I don't want to go on another rant about how much I dislike something. So, Feature Comics. This was really cool. This is really cool. I got this really cheap from someone many years ago. Flash 199. Don't remember that. It isn't possible. I can't die this way. Don't worry, you don't. I have more issues of Flash than this because I have some of the ones with the Green Arrow backup story, which was supposed to originally be an issue of Green Lantern Green Arrow. Fred Hembeck destroys the Marvel Universe. I have it signed by Fred Hembeck with a little doodle of himself. Let's see. Let me rewind, catch up here. Are Kane Marco and Flint Marco related, or just victims of Stan forgetting he used the name? I think there's a story that addresses this because there's another giant character named Man Mountain Marco, and I only know this because I'm pretty sure Kurt Busiek in one of the forums I was on was talking about it one time, where he did a story or something where it addressed the fact that all these big dudes were named Marco. Here's a weird one. It is Fun and Games. It's got a Captain Britain thing in it. It's got stuff about Marvel's weddings. There's Vision, and it's got a Howard the Duck. This is like full of like things for you to like activity book. It's an activity book, but it's by Marvel. Didn't seem to catch on, but generic comic book. The blurb here says, this comic contains one neurotic superhero type with a variety of personal problems, one bad guy bent on world domination through arcane means, assorted villainous henchpeople, the hero's nefarious employer, pathetic family, and well-endowed girlfriend, a plot containing a conflict, a subplot, a resolution, a plot twist, and as many fights as it takes to fill up the rest of the pages. That's exactly what it is. There's actually a comic book story here, but everything is done as generically as possible. I appreciate it. I appreciate the dedication to the joke that it took to actually publish this. So Tartan's saying he's trying to get them in unmolested condition. This looks actually really nice from the outside, but I don't remember whether someone's filled in the stuff on the inside. I'd have to look. Here's Ghost Rider number 3. This is the magazine Enterprise version of Ghost Rider. Here is Grim Ghost number 1. This actually got a little bit of heat a couple years ago because there was an announcement that Atlas Comics was going to be made into movies, and the Grim Ghost was one of the characters people were expecting. That's never happened. That's crazy talk. Here's Grim Ghost number 2. He's dead. He's a dandy. He's a killer. He's all of this stuff. I like how all the images are inside his cape. I don't know. Grim Ghost. Tartan says the generic book is almost as bad as the Marvel Fumetti book. It is. I have that too somewhere, and it's not good. Like I said, I appreciate the dedication to the joke to go through with it, but it's not actually good. Unlike this, I'm kidding. It's Harvey number 3. It's one of these really obscure Marvel books. Every time I see something like this, I'm like, the hell? Gotta buy it. What's this? Oh, it's an issue of Herbie, but it's a remaindered copy. I bought this at my local comic shop for 60 cents because I wanted to read the story and see what all the fuss was about. Grayman says, I have all the Atlas except the Vickies. Yep. I'm not a huge Atlas fan. I do have probably about half of them just because I pick them up now and then when I see them cheap. Vickies are the one that I'm always looking for because those are much closer to what I collect, but I've never seen them cheap. My local comic shop has 2 of the issues, but they're like $60 or something. Here's the Heroes Inc. presents Canon. It's all Wally Wood, which is great. There's actually a second issue somewhere. I've never seen it, but this one is one of these things where there were like, I don't know, tens of thousands of uncirculated copies that they found in a warehouse or something. So it's really easy to get. I paid a couple dollars for it just to see it. What in the heck? Oh, House of Secrets number 76, featuring Eclipso and Prince Rawman, the Mind Master. Prince Rawman, the Mind Master. No memory of owning that. I don't remember anything about it. Inferior 5, number 11. I keep meaning to get a t-shirt made with a picture of E. Nelson Bridwell's face and just have underneath it say something like OG, because he's the OG comic nerd. And this is probably his finest hour. Gotta give it up respect to E. Nelson Bridwell. Immortal Iron Fist, Brubaker, Fraction, and Oddjaw. Love this series. When it was very short, and then it sort of dissipated. And at the time, I wondered why, and now I realize it's because Oddjaw can't draw that fast. Here's one of the issues. In between arcs, they'd have these scheduled. They're not really fill-ins, but they're stories where they fill in the blank of the long history of all the Iron Fists, where they were creating this mythology. My copy here is signed by Ed Brubaker. I'm a big fan of Brubaker's Captain America run. Here's another. This is another Immortal Iron Fist one shot, which is about Orson Randall, who is the Iron Fist before Danny Rand. Here's another one with Orson Randall. He's sort of a 30s style pulp hero. He fights with 2 guns. He channels his chi through the guns, so it shoots mystic bullets. And here's another one with Orson Randall, Iron Fist. They have a very sort of 30s pulp feel, which I really dig. Here's another issue where it's an Iron Fist of the past. The reason I have some of these is that I have the regular part of the run in collected form, but they didn't reprint some of these in-between issues with the previous Iron Fists. So let's see, we're at 59 minutes. When we get to an hour, I'm going to stop at that point. So just to let you know, we'll see how far I get. I'm getting close to the end of the box. I probably won't get all the way through it. Here's John Carter, Warlord of Mars, number 1. Is this... Yeah, it's Gil Kane with Dave Cockrum ink. So I was like, is this Cockrum? I actually didn't recognize the Gil Kane. I should have, because it's got the, even though it's an alien, the guy in the foreground is got the up the nose shot. It's Johnny Thunder, number 2. This is Alex Toth, reprints of Alex Toth art from All American Western or something like that. I have a really nice copy. I got this as part of a big group of 70s books someone gave me when I was a kid. And I've always held on to it just because the cover is just so cool and the art's so cool. The Joker, number 6, where the Joker faces off against Sherlock Holmes, or a version of Sherlock Holmes. Let's see. We've got Johnny Quest with the Dave Stevens cover. My understanding is the last couple years, the Dave Stevens stuff has really taken off. There's a lot of people trying to put together complete runs, sets of all the Dave Stevens covers. I would love to do it, but I just don't want to spend the money. This is one I've had for a long time because when I see them cheap enough, I've got an issue of Airboy somewhere that has one of his covers. When I see them cheap, I get them. But Judge Dredd #1. This is the American reprint series. This lasted quite a while. This is a book again. I paid like $1 for it. It's a really nice copy. Hasn't quite taken off, but it's you know, it's a reprint. I guess people that really want to collect it will collect the originals. Justice League #1, famous cover. My first issue of the series when it was coming out was #3, and then I started reading it regularly with issue 7. Kyle says he needs the Dredd 1. Well, I will make a note of that, and when we get around to talking about in our next trade, we can talk about it. Tartan says it's worth some money now. Is it? Oh, okay. Justice #1, featuring Justice Incorporated, featuring the Avenger. I've owned this book like 3 times, and I'm not really sure why, because it's disappointing every time I read it, but it does have a cool cover by Joe Kubert. So, okay, here is a series of Justice Society one-shots where they did like a Justice Society #1, then the team split up into teams of like 2 people, and they all went on their own way, which is a very classic Justice Society storyline. And they did one-shots where they showed all of the individual adventures, and I have most of them. Here's #2. So this is the story. After they do all their individual adventures, they come back together for the conclusion of the story in this. Oh, and here's, these are all out of order apparently. Here's the first part. One of these one-shots has a story with Our Man in it. Not Our Man, with it's got Dr. Midnight teamed up with somebody. It doesn't matter who it is. It might be Our Man, because those are my 2 favorite Justice Society members, and Sandman. Those 3. Anyway, the Dr. Midnight is just one of the funniest things I've ever read, where they're just like getting destroyed, and I won't spoil it, but Hootie the Owl saves the day in an extremely unexpected way. And here is a follow-up series, JSA All-Stars #1 of 8. It's signed by my friend Bob Almond, who is an inker for Marvel and DC. So I bought that from him at a show. He runs a nonprofit inker group called the Inkwell Awards. He always has signed copies of his books. So I bought that from him to try and support that. Commandy #32. I keep hearing that this is one of Kirby's best works. I have to say I've never really gotten into it, but I did keep this issue, and that's mainly because I just haven't read that many. Not that I don't think it's good, I just haven't read enough. But this has a 2-page bio. You can see if you can read that. A 2-page, an intimate glimpse of Jack Kirby, and then it also has a 2-page spread that's a map of the Commandy world. So what's really interesting is they managed to do the whole Jack Kirby bio of his entire life without ever mentioning that he worked at Marvel. That's just fantastic. Korak 47. I love frame covers, black covers. I love the 20-cent double bullets. This is the 2nd DC issue. Joe Kubert. It's got everything going for it except for the fact that I just don't really care about Korak at all. Tartan says Commandy's great. You have to start at the beginning. I used to have a Commandy #1 a long, long time ago, but not anymore. I can look into the collected editions. I have some credit on Amazon right now, and I'm going to be buying some comic book related stuff with it. Let's see, where am I at here? Okay, I'm almost to the place where I'm going to stop. When I get to Marvel, I'm going to stop before I get into any of the Marvels, because there's tons and tons of books that have Marvel Spotlight, Marvel Future. Legion of Superheroes 259. I think the only reason I got this was because it was one of those things where I'm like, well, it's technically the first issue of Legion of Superheroes because it's the issue where they dropped the Superboy title. So sometimes those, I think it was pure speculation. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this Legion of Superheroes. Long Shot #1, Art Adams. This is an issue that I bought when it came out in 1985. Very early on in my collecting, did not understand anything that was happening in this story. It's so confusing, but the art is just amazing. Art Adams just blew me away as a kid, and his art is like, it's just great. It's so good. It's Machine Man #1. Followed by Man Bat #1. I think we'll probably end on this one. I see some Marvel stuff, Marvel Age coming up. I've owned this multiple times as well. It's pretty nice shape. Jim Aparo, back in the era where DC is literally throwing anything you can think of at the wall, and none of it's sticking. Just none of it's sticking. So I think that's it. We've been going a little over an hour. That's a look at most of Miscellaneous Box #1. And next time I do a long box Archaeology, I'll do the rest of this, and I'll get into Miscellaneous Box #2. I know there's some interesting stuff in that other box. I think I've got I think there's an X-Men 99 in there, and some weird things. My Shaun of the She-Devils are over there. So other than that, I'm not entirely sure, though. There's so many Marvel books. Thanks, everyone, for coming. This was a spur-of-the-moment decision to do this. I wasn't really expecting anyone to watch, and I really appreciate it. Gray Man, thank you. Kyle, thanks very much. Tartan, thanks very much. And just whoever else is on here, I can't actually see who's watching, who's not commenting, but thank you, everyone. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody watching, and that's it for this time. Thank you, James. I appreciate it very much. And thanks very much, and I'll see you all next time.